Today I'm going to do a review on a wire stripper here. Now, this wire stripper comes in a couple different models. You can get it with or without the electric motor. And you got a hand crank. So you can mount it to the side of a table and hand crank it. Comes with a little bag of hardware. And it also, in that bag of hardware, is this threaded piece here. It's octagon, and it screws right into the end of the shaft, where you can attach a drill to it. I was looking at some of the reviews, and one of the reviews on this, the guy was saying that it didn't come with any directions, so he kind of demoted it a little bit for that. So I'm going to try to do is kind of demonstrate how it works, how to use it. I'll try to be thorough, but it seems like it's pretty well built. It's good, solid, good aluminum. You gotta get your power, where it plugs in right down here. So we'll plug that in. A little bit cumbersome with my fat fingers, maybe big hands. Now, I do a lot of scrap metal, and this channel is basically geared towards scrappers. And of course, with scrapping, we get lots of wire, as you see back here in this bin. So you got a little guard here that you can raise and lower or take off when needed. It comes in that bag of goodies. It comes with 2 different Allen wrenches, which the small one's a 3mm. I got some out of my set, and the larger one is 5mm. The motor turns on. You got a little toggle switch right here. Not sure if you can see that. Bring it a little closer for you. So now, when using one of these wire strippers, you don't want to cut too deep into the wire. By doing so, even though copper is somewhat a soft metal, it will dull the blade over time. So the best thing to do, especially if you want to do a lot at once, or a lot of wire in a short time, is to separate all your wire. But when separating, you have to look at the diameter of the wire. Okay, let me cut this here. Kind of smash it back around again. But you have to pay attention to the diameter of your wire and the thickness of the insulation, because sometimes you can get, I don't know if I got a piece handy here. Yeah, something like this. You see the wire on both of those are fairly close. I think this one's a little bit bigger, but you can see that this one has much thicker insulation. So you'll have to raise the blade. Now the blade will be pretty much the same. Yeah, not really. You'll have to raise the blade up, because this is going to cause it to ride higher, and you don't, like I say, you don't want to cut into the insulation, or you want to cut through the insulation but not into the wire. And usually what I do, I cut me a piece, 8-10 inches long, maybe a foot long, and one thing I'll note before I start cutting is, if you're doing real thick wire, say something like this, where you have like 3 strands inside, you want to use the big hole, but to use that, this little guide here won't quite raise up high enough, so you'll have to remove it. But we'll go ahead and I'll raise this up. And the reason I use a short piece is to kind of get this zeroed in. Well, the brand of this is BeamNova, BeamNova. There's a BeamNova store on Amazon where you can find this. I'll have a link to this on my affiliate page. I'm doing this, what you do, well, one thing too is you can see how much lower I'm feeding this through the small hole, and so I'm hitting just above center on that drive wheel to where as it goes in, it has to go up. And if you get into real thin wire, that's what you're going to want to do too. So right now I've got this adjusted all the way down with that hole on the top. If I was going to do real thin wire, and I'll probably try some here in a little bit, I'll probably have to flip this over, but I'll try it here. I've got some thin solid core out of some fluorescent lights. Now this has got a kind of a clear plastic on it, and it cut through that, so I'm starting to get close. Get that thin plastic out of the way. Okay, you can see actually I cut through it there. It could probably stand to go down just a hair more, but not much. Well, there's really two issues with cutting too deep, especially on stranded wire. Is one, it'll dull your blade. Two, if it cuts in there, it will cut the strands in different places, and then you got a whole bunch of little pieces coming out, and it's hard to get the wire out of there without poking yourself. See that? Stripped it right on out of there. Discard that. I got a kitten down here at my feet wanting to play with the wires. So I did not sort this wire out, so I'm going to try a different one that I want to raise back up. I guess they cut me a piece off of this one for setting it in. I figured by doing this, and I can show you the settings 2 or 3 times how to do this. You can hear this machine is quiet, very quiet. Okay, I got a little score there, but it's just not quite enough, so just a hair. Real close, but it's not quite wanting to separate. Now what I found too, sometimes in the winter time, the insulation is a lot stiffer when it's cold. See, I'm pulling that, but it's pretty resistant, so I'll bring it down a little bit more, and I'll run the long piece through here. See it, cook that in real quick. wire. Looks like the guide might have to come down just a little bit. Wrong one. Getting playing with the wire. Sometimes your stranded wire will want to, where the V is and the blade comes down, sometimes it'll roll to the side. So that's what that little guide is for, to kind of help hold it in the center, keep it from rolling to the side. This comes with also 4 holes in it, so you can bolt it to a workbench. One review I read, I think the guy was reviewing the hand crank one, where you put a drill on it, and he was saying that he found it faster, I guess, to crank it a time or two, or hit it with the drill just a little bit and then pull it through by hand. And he said he stripped quite a bit of wire pretty quick doing that. Doing that little bitty wire, I may have to, let me go cut a piece of that little wire. Okay, here's a little piece of that wire, and then I'll grab a piece of wire over here out of my other bucket. Some stranded wire. I'm not sure what gauge this is, probably 16, 18. Can't really quite make it out, but it's pretty thin. So I'll see if we can strip it. This is where usually where people have the problem, is with this real thin stuff, which a lot of scrappers never really strip this real thin stuff, because you just spend a lot of time for quarter pound. You can sit here and strip wire for an hour and maybe only get a quarter pound, half pound, so it seems to be staying right on center, and it's starting to score here. Sometimes what I do too is sometimes it doesn't get the very, very tip, and other wire power wire strippers do the same thing. So just have a pair of strippers available, then you can grab it and you can just kind of bend it towards the cut, and then it comes out. And so strip that thin wire pretty good. Get tinned wire. And that stuff I usually don't strip. I might start now though. Let me grab another piece. Another thing I want to mention about this, they do have on their Amazon page, they also have replacement wheels. And the replacement wheel for this one runs, I think, $14.99, which isn't too shabby. They also have replacement wheels for those blue and yellow strippers you guys see on eBay and whatnot. They also have replacement wheels for those if you need any. And I think they run probably around 20 bucks, $19.99, something like that. At least at the time of this recording, we should say. Now, and while I'm on prices, This unit here runs $125.99, which isn't bad for a powered wire stripper, and really I'm kind of liking this. Now as I get into the smaller stuff, this does have another set of holes down a little bit lower, and as you can see, this plate or this guide is slotted a little bit, so you can adjust it up and down. So whether you're in the upper set or lower set of holes. Okay, we're through there now. I'm gonna set this on 16. Yeah, it seems like we're about 16 gauge here. Now, I think just come off pretty as you please. Okay, now we'll see if we can cut. That was, like I say, 18 gauge or 16 gauge. And this one here, it's pretty small. This is some of that solid core out of a fluorescent light fixture. And it's actually cutting through it. Cutting through the insulation. So yeah, it cuts that pretty thin stuff without a problem. And I got a little bit of clearance, but looking down in there still. So if, you know, like I said, if you got one size of wire, like I got a bunch of this red in here that's one thickness, you can actually lock it. You got a lock nut here, jam nut. You can lock it down where it doesn't move and just go to town. Just run it through and let it hit the floor, then pick it up, and once you know your cutting depth is right. So seems to me it's a nice little unit. I like it. And there is a link to this one, and I think the non-electric, and I guess I could put a link to the mini also. The like I said, this one is $125.99 at the time of this recording, this video, and then they have the manual one for $83.99 with the hand crank. Plus, I'm sure you get this little adapter here that goes in for the drill. And then they have a mini. It's a little shorter, and it runs $72.99. So they're pretty affordable. Price is good. It works good. As you saw it demonstrated, I tried to, you know, like I said, I tried to do the setups as I went. So you can see kind of how to run the wire. And like I say, if you're running big stuff, just raise this up. Which, like I say, that one you take the little 3mm. You just raise it up to the height you need. Like I say, your drive wheel you want to hit center, or maybe a hair above. Some of your real small wire you may need to go down below, but you saw I was running 2-3 different wires there. Just thicker stuff. I'll lay a piece of that there. And then and this is a little bit thinner. I was running that, and it was all running just fine. So cutting that insulation. That's the main thing. So it's fast, convenient. Like I said, prices aren't good. So basically, for a bucket of stripped copper, you can make enough money, or more than enough, to buy you one of these and make your stripping a lot easier. I didn't crank this down. One improvement I think that they could make is this shaft here is just completely round, and then you got an Allen screw that sets in there. If they could mill one side flat, and then to where when you put this on there, you could tighten the screw in on the flat side, then it's not going to slip. I'm not sure. Of course, even trying to hand crank this with the electric motor on there, the motor might cause some resistance. I'm just curious how hard this is. You know, how much resistance and how hard it is to crank this. So, wow, cranks pretty easy. One finger. Even with the motor on there. So, let's cut a piece of, yeah, we'll go with the thinner one. Let's go with this thin one. One thing I need to add too, on whenever you're running one of these strippers, is you want to try to get the wire fairly straight, and definitely no kinks. Not deep enough. I know this video is getting kind of long. This is a good, yeah, it looks like we're down into it now. Yeah, I see copper. So as you can see, just start high and adjust it down. Run a short piece through. Now I got that piece ran through. Like I said, that's my little setup piece. And like I say, sometimes it's hard to get in there to get that started on peeling that off. So a lot of times I just take wire strippers and cut a little off the end. It peels right out of there, pretty as you please. So even hand cranking it, it's not bad, and you know, really no more effort than that takes to crank that. They really wouldn't have to flatten that out. Just make sure you get your set screws tightened up good. When you got that tightened up good, it should be just fine. So yeah, I think it's a really good machine. I got a lot of wire to do here, so I got all day. And I think it's got two screws out here too. Like I said, there's no directions that come with this. So what I'm thinking is you got two ways you can lock this carriage down if you're doing a whole lot of wire that's all the same. You can get it set where it's good, and then run in here and tighten this down here. Tighten it down there, and then it's not going nowhere. And you can also tighten the jam nut there if you wanted, but I think just tightening it on the sides, you're going to be good to go. There's always a chance when you're doing a jam nut, because you got to have you got to make sure you hold this still and then tighten that up and make sure that doesn't turn and drive you deeper. Because the thing you want to avoid is going too deep with this. to where you're cutting into your wire, because that will eventually dull your blade. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to get you one of these, like I said, there's a link in the description below the video. And I think I put the electric one and the non-electric. I think I'll go ahead and put the mini in there. This is a good solid piece of equipment. I like it. And like I say, BeamNova, BeamNova. Your manuals, one I got here is $125.99, and then they got the manual one just like this, the tall one with the hand crank for $83.99. The replacement blade for this one and the hand crank is $14.99. I'm not sure the blade for the mini, but they're on there. When you go to the when you go to follow one of the links to this, it'll say the BeamNova store, fairly close to the top of the page, and you can click on that, and they've got a lot of different stuff on there, a lot of good tools, and I think they have one category of wire strippers under industrial tools, I believe it's what it is, and I don't know what the thing weighs, it probably 10 pounds or so. But they do have replacement blades for the minis also. And I'll try to do an update on this in 6 months or so and see how it's still operating. And one thing I was thinking with this coming with the hand crank and all, say if you're out somewhere and you don't have electric, you can use the hand crank, or if your motor burns out somewhere down the road and you're waiting, you order another motor waiting for it to come in, you can still hand crank or put your drill on there and still strip wire while you're waiting for a motor to come in or whatever. But that might be the only questionable thing about this, is what will the duration of the motor be. But it looks good. I should have checked it when I was running it, but the motor's not hot at all. So yeah, that's the BeamNova electric wire stripper. And so if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Go check out the page. Check out the BeamNova store. They've got lots of goodies. I might get a piece of wire here and play with the kitten. But like I say, on your solid wire, make sure, try to straighten it out the best you can. Make sure there's no kinks. But that's with any electric or hand crank wire stripper. If you get a kink or something you could catch in the small hole, give you problems, or it'll catch inside. So I got some wire like this. That one may be too small, but it'll run through there too, actually. Just have to clean that up a little. But I'd say this is definitely a winner. So if you can afford it, I'd say get it. And we'll see you guys in the next video.